Hi everyone, I'm teacher Cheryl and welcome to my channel. In today's lesson, we are going to be focusing on reading comprehension. I'm going to give you 6 tips that you can use to help you improve your overall understanding of any texts. So let's get right into it. So first of all, let's talk about becoming a good reader. In order to be a good reader and be able to understand texts very easily, you will need a few things. First of all, background knowledge. Secondly, you will need knowledge of vocabulary. You need to be able to read with fluency as well. Reading with fluency actually helps you to retain information more easily. The next thing you need to be doing is active reading. So as you are reading, you're not just reading blindly, but you are asking yourself questions about the text and also recalling things that you had read before. Finally, critical thinking is a very important skill if you want to be a good reader. So as you are reading, you should be thinking about the literary devices that the writer has used. So for example, you might ask yourself, why did the writer use this particular word? Or maybe, why did the writer write in this particular way? So these are 5 important aspects that you will need in order to become a good reader. And being a good reader doesn't happen overnight. This takes time, so don't give up and just keep practicing. So let's go into tip number 1. Tip number 1 is don't define every word. I know it seems strange because we need to understand words in order to understand the text. However, if you're going to try to define every single word, this will affect your reading fluency and it may actually distract you from understanding the overall text as well. So maybe when you come across 1 or 2 words that you don't understand in the text, ask yourself this question: can I understand the sentence without understanding the word? Let's look at an example. This example is taken from Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Let me read the paragraph to you first. Why, my dear, you must know, Mrs. Long says that Netherfield is taken by a young man of large fortune from the north of England, that he came down on Monday in a chaise and 4 to see the place, and was so much delighted with it that he agreed with Mr. Morris immediately, that he is to take possession before Michaelmas, and some of his servants are to be in the house by the end of next week. So in this particular paragraph, I don't know what a chaise and 4 is. So what can I do? So I'm going to ask myself, can I understand this sentence or this paragraph without understanding this particular phrase, chaise and 4? If I look at the sentence again, he came down on Monday in a chaise and 4 to see the place. So I realized that the chaise and 4 is not exactly very important because I know that this young man, he came down to the place on Monday because he wanted to see the place. So therefore, in this particular example, I don't really need to know what a chaise and 4 is. If you do want to know what a chaise and 4 is, it is actually a carriage that is pulled by 4 horses. So the chaise actually refers to a carriage and 4 refers to 4 horses. So let's go to tip number 2. So in tip number 2, you need to use context clues. Basically, what you would do here is to look at the words before and after the word that you're not sure of. Let's look at a second example. I find myself very unwell this morning, which I suppose is to be imputed to my getting wet through yesterday. My kind friends will not hear of my returning till I am better. And, excepting a sore throat and headache, there is not much the matter with me. So I don't know what this word imputed means. Let's look for some context clues in the paragraph. The writer says that she was feeling very unwell, and probably the reason for that is because she got wet through. That means she got totally drenched the day before. She also talks about how she will not return until she's actually better. So this again links to how she's feeling unwell. And she also mentions that she has a sore throat and a headache. From the context clues that I've picked out, we know that this writer, she's not feeling well, and it's most likely because she got drenched in the rain the day before. So I can kind of guess that imputed means something like caused by. So I'm going to read the sentence and replace imputed with caused by. I find myself very unwell this morning, which I suppose is to be caused by my getting wet through yesterday. That makes sense, doesn't it? Let's go on to tip 3. In tip 3, we have to look for word parts. And what I mean by word parts are like root words, prefixes, and suffixes. Let's look at a third example. Undoubtedly, replied Mr. Darcy, to whom this remark was chiefly addressed. So notice the word chiefly has the suffix ly. Words that end with ly are mostly adverbs, and adverbs describe verbs or adjectives. So in this situation, chiefly is used to describe the word addressed. Now the root word is chief, and chief means like a leader or a main person or most important. So thus I can kind of guess here chiefly means something like mainly. So let's read the sentence again, but I'll replace chiefly with the word mainly. Undoubtedly, replied Darcy, to whom this remark was mainly addressed. Going on to tip number 4. In tip 4, you need to break up the sentences. When Jane and Elizabeth were alone, the former, who had been cautious in her praise of Mr. Bingley before, expressed to her sister just how very much she admired him. Now realize this sentence has a lot of pronouns and it can be a little bit confusing who it's referring to. So let's break it up into parts. So the first part is when Jane and Elizabeth were alone. So I know that there are two people there, Jane and Elizabeth. The second part, the former. So former here refers to Jane. The next part of the sentence, who had been cautious in her praise of Mr. Bingley before. So this who is a relative pronoun and this who is referring to the former. And we already know that the former is referring to Jane. So this part is telling us that Jane was cautious in her praise of Mr. Bingley before. The next section is expressed to her sister. So here again we know that Jane was telling her sister something. And her sister refers to Elizabeth. In the last part, just how very much she admired him. So here it's kind of telling us again that Jane is telling Elizabeth how much Jane admires Mr. Bingley. So this is what I understand from the sentence. Jane told her sister that she admired Mr. Bingley. Now I do have another video where I give a more detailed explanation of how you can break up sentences in order to help you understand them better. I'll leave a link in the description box below for you. So for tip number 5, we need to look for related words or ideas. This can come in the form of repeated words or phrases, or it could be the feelings or emotions of a particular character. So for this, you would look for feeling words, reactions of characters, or maybe the body language of the characters as well. You could also look for time phrases or transitional words. So let's look at the first example again, that he came down on Monday in a chaise and four to see the place and was so much delighted with it that he agreed with Mr. Morris immediately that he is to take possession before Michaelmas, and some of his servants are to be in the house by the end of next week. There are a number of time phrases here. If you notice, the first one is on Monday. So we know that this guy, he came down to the house on Monday. The next time phrase is immediately. So when he went down to the house on Monday, he immediately agreed to buy or rent the house. The next phrase is before Michaelmas. Now, if you notice here, it says he is to take possession before Michaelmas. That means he's going to be the owner of the place before this particular date, which is Michaelmas. And the last one is by the end of next week. So his servants are actually going to be in the house before the man moves into the house. So let's see the timeline. Monday, he saw the place, he immediately bought the place. The end of the next week, the servants will go to the house, and before Michaelmas, the owner will move into the house. So notice how using all these time phrases actually helped me understand what's going on in the story. Let's go to the final tip. In tip 6, it is to summarize the text. What you should do here is to describe the main points or the main ideas of each section or each paragraph. So going back to the same example again, what I'd like you to do is to pause the video, read the paragraph on your own, and try to summarize the paragraph into one sentence. Then leave your summary in the comment box below. Let me share with you my summary. So my summary is a rich young man is moving into a place called Netherfield. Okay, so let's recap the 6 tips that I've gone through today. The first one is don't define every word. Use context clues. Look for word parts. Break up sentences, look for related words or ideas, and summarize the text. Like I mentioned right at the beginning of the video, becoming a good reader takes time. What you need to do is keep applying these 6 tips whenever you're reading a text. You may take a little bit more time in the beginning when you're trying to apply these tips. However, it will get easier and faster as you keep practicing. So that's it for today's video. If you found it useful, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Also, feel free to share this with your friends and family whom you think might find it useful as well. See you in the next one. Bye!